You're looking to be more creative and innovative? And one of the keys to unlocking your potential is an entrepreneurial mindset. I like to say permission granted. No one is successful overnight.
Keep on keeping on.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are at in the world, and welcome to day 20 of 31 days to Pat It 2. We've got less days in front of us than we had behind us now, and so more days behind us, pardon me. It's been a transformational experience and adventure so far, and we've received a lot of text and requests for coaching. So we have a big announcement today, and I'm excited to share with you that I'm going to be giving away 1 hour of strategic visual coaching each day for the remaining 11 days in May to anyone who signs up and applies. If you look at this URL that's going to come up below, go to that URL, fill out that form, easy form, and we'll be picking two businesses, two business builders for coaching tomorrow, and then one every day going forward after that. So again, we're giving away 1 hour strategic visual coaching, no cost. This is a $750 value for you. Sign up, apply at the URL you find in this banner running below my beautiful mug here. And I'll help you take your business, take your endeavor, take your idea to the next level, accelerate you forward 100 times to 1,000 times a return on that 1 hour, I assure you. Okay, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about something that has been on my mind and something I've been working on improving a good chunk of my life. Ever since I became aware I had 2 ears and 1 mouth and need to listen more. It's a constant challenge. I'm very good at talking and sharing and just being effusive. And so I'm having to constantly remind myself to listen. And listening is one of those things that is critical for you to be able to be understood, to be liked, to be embraced, for people to get excited about being with you. And so, and then where I try to focus in listening, and if we can move to the vision board, what I'm trying to do constantly when I'm listening now, and this is what I train mentors and executives and anybody who is willing to listen, is we need to listen for the unsaid. This is important. Unsaid, sorry, that's USA there. Hold on 1 second, I'm gonna delete that. The unsaid. This is key. Everybody is talking, and when they're talking to you, there are unsaid things that they're saying. These are the things that are below what they're saying. So what I try to do is listen so intently that I'm processing what they're really trying to say, even though that's not what's coming out of the words in their mouth. This is the unsaid, what's below what they're saying, what the true meaning is, what the true desire is, what the true hope is from the person you're listening to. This is not easy, but when you practice it, you'll start seeing that people are really saying one thing out loud, but they're really saying another thing down below, which is the unsaid. And that means you have to quiet yourself. You have to be more at ease. And I think I just saw a post today. You want to argue as hard, you want to listen as hard as you argue for what you believe in, and listen as if you don't know anything and that you're learning. So many times when people are listening, they're processing in their brain. They have unconscious or conscious conversations in their head about what they want to say back, what they're trying to communicate. You want to quiet your inner talking as you're engaging with people so that you can actually hear what they're saying. And then instead of responding with more about you, more about what you're doing, or a response that gives you an opportunity to share about yourself. Ask deeper questions, more strategic questions that allow you to go deeper and listen further and learn more about the person you're with. You will, in this process, understand and gather more information, and people will start wanting to be around you more. This was one of the secrets of Andy Warhol, the artist, the pop artist, famous pop artist, I'd say. I would say, though, that one of the things that he was a phenomenal listener. You can see he was constantly surrounded by people in conversation. His key to this, listening, asking more questions, being interested in the person, not so much himself. And so when you're listening, you want to be at ease, you want to be quiet, you want to remember you have 2 ears, 1 mouth, use them appropriately, and be listening for what's unsaid. This is not easy, this is not hard, but when you start listening more deeply and you take that time to consciously say, I'm going to listen and be present in the conversation, you will find you can hear what people are really saying underneath what they're actually saying through their words. And it will help you become a more valuable human being to listen more. Okay, that's my quick lesson today to start with here. And I'm constantly practicing this. I still have the challenge of wanting to talk more than I listen. And so I figure for the rest of my life, I'll be working on this. But at the same time, I'm communicating it, sharing it, and improving my listening as I go through this process. Okay, Amy, who's our first guest? Margot.
Yes.
So good to see you. I'm so glad you came back. Thank you. We just didn't get to finish our conversation. I was like, I left our last time we were together here on Patatu wishing we had more time, and I know we didn't necessarily. And what I wanted to pick up on, and if you're willing to go here, is you've been through a lot of transformation from when we were hanging out together, which we realized had been a long time.
A long time.
Collaborating, growing economy, working on entrepreneurship, helping support Osage Nation and other tribes in the Tulsa area. We were in the thick of like the just activity of seeing Tulsa reach its full potential. May Tesla move to Tulsa. I'm wondering. You talked about you gotten divorced. I've also gotten divorced from Kristen, and it was a very difficult thing for me, situation, process, and it took a while to overcome that. I'm wondering for you, kind of what happened and what transpired, and obviously on the other side of this, it's worked out really well. But in the moment, I know that it was difficult to continue building a business while at the same time having so much challenges within my personal life. A lot of people through this, but I'd never been in it as thick as I was this particular time. I'm wondering what is it that you were doing to manage yourself and to be able to stay focused and keep going on in such a difficult kind of emotional moment of transition?
Boy, there's a lot of questions there. Number one, it's great to see you again. And that just makes me happy, number one.
Me too.
Divorce, it's not anything that when you get married, that's something that's like, it's there, but it's not anything you ever want. I mean, when you get married, you give your whole heart and everything. Mm-hmm. But as you go through in a marriage, you learn values. And I think if I was going to impart any knowledge, is that I know how I was raised, and domestic violence had no place, and I never saw it in my house. I never saw it with my parents. So when you're faced with it, you have to make some major decisions. Is this where I want to be? And even though I divorced someone that I really loved, but I also found out that I loved me more. And I think that's important for any, and here I was sitting in a good friend of ours, Suzanne, who used to be with the chamber.
Stuart.
Yeah, Suzanne had moved from there and was over the domestic violence. So when she saw me walk in the door, it was like, what? I mean, oh wow, So the thing is, I have been advocating against domestic violence because I've seen it in my community. I've seen it with my friends, but I didn't think I'd see it in my own home. And so when I was faced with that decision, I had a choice of, can you work through it? And I think that sometimes in life you have to draw, what is the line in the sand that, if you're going to disrespect me at that level, if I put myself in that back in there without getting counseling or whatever. And, of course, he has apologized a thousand times. And if he could change that moment in time, I know he would. But the fact remained is that I had to make a decision. And all the while, I'm not only running a business, but I'm also the chairwoman of the largest, it's called the National Center for American Indian Enterprise. I was the first woman to ever lead about a 500,000 member organization of entrepreneurs, tribal enterprises, gaming enterprises, everything that had to do with business. And I had to go 2 weeks after that happened and, put on this face of, what I'm doing. And so it's just, you have to make the decisions of, I had to do it. I had to go through with a divorce because I just knew that I couldn't put myself in harm's way. And if someone's going to disrespect you. So unfortunately, that's how my divorce ended. And he has since remarried. And, I've decided, maybe not, not that dating's not off the table or anything, but I'll put it this way. I think you hear a lot in business right now that everyone's having to pivot. And I think that's what I did then. I wanted to go forward, but I just had to move in a different direction because, if you're not happy in your personal life, it's really hard. And this, it's really hard to jumpstart your business. And then at the same time, my business partner came in and said, I'm getting older. I want to close down the business. I don't want it. You can have it, and I'm going. So within a matter of 4 or 5 months, I had that to deal with. Well, that was in November. And I was also a foster parent for a young man. And he was with me for 3 years during his high school years. His mother was in jail and she left. She got out of jail and she wanted all of her kids back. And I, absolutely. And so he went on back to Tulsa, got married. And as life would have it, he was married and had several kids. And one night, right after Christmas in 2012, him and his little brother went to go to the Quick Trip in Tulsa, one of the brand new ones there at, I want to say, Lewis and the 44. Right when it opened, they lived not too far from there, and they got T-boned by a drunk driver. So I had some major life changes in just months apart, and then how to just take that all in and move forward. So I closed down the business, got a divorce, and was helping his wife, his widow now, and just to move on,
What I could feel it.
A lot.
I could feel there was a lot going on through the screen last time we were talking. And what we're really trying to do is help people understand how to persevere, how to handle these, how to move through these transitional times, and there's an opportunity within those to either go stronger, take those lessons with you and apply them in new ways as you go forward, or let them beat you down. Obviously, that didn't happen with you. You kept going. What were you doing during those times? And I'll share maybe a little bit about what I was doing.
Right.
That
It was really
keep going, because that's a lot to be handling emotionally and just physically, and it can drain you. So what were you doing to overcome and keep going?
Well, really, it was setting a new direction. If you're going to close one business, it's just like once you do one business, you know the model to set up another one, get started, go out, and you're going to have to market yourself and really use your business network. There were people that didn't believe that that had happened. They didn't, well, they didn't want to believe, oh, that didn't happen. She may have made that up. And I had to deal with some of that. And then other people were like, we knew that was happening. That was going to happen. That's, you know, he grew up in that type of environment. And so to break that cycle of abuse, but I decided to jump out of that cycle. And I did it for, and, you know, and now that it doesn't seem like it's the right reason at the time, but I knew it was. And then once I reestablished my business, and then you get that, I don't know what we call it, that fire in your belly where you're like, okay, you know, no one's going to drag me out of this or get me out of this. I went through like that, you know, the hurt, the sadness, what did I do wrong? And then, you know what? I was smart and I did get some help. I went and talked to some people, which to me was the smartest thing to do. And also I had a great network of friends that stood right by me. And so how do you get unstuck from that? The thing is that you know what value you have. You know, I don't depend on anyone to tell me, oh, Margo, you're really good at this, or you're that. I know what I'm good at. And I'm also, you know, using your network. Oh my gosh. And then I found it really refreshing that when I started letting everyone know that I was starting a business, then the clients started coming. And that was the best part. And then you're refocused and you're redirected. And I really think that even in these times right now, I had to look at, once again, when you're faced with adversity, and we're all sharing an adversity right now globally. How do we, you know, how does this impacting us being home? Well, for those of us who have worked from home, this is not a big deal.
Right.
But you see other people struggling with it, and you could see sadness on them, or they don't, or not everyone is a consultant like, or do what we do. There are people who work in the different industries. And then I said, if, you know, now's the time, if there's any time that you want to get into business that is online, or you have a skill set, that now is the time.
Okay.
And, you know, what's the worst thing that could happen? You know, it may not work out for you, but the other thing is, what if it does? And that's the exciting part about it. Yeah.
I mean, right. I think some people are as fearful of the being successful as maybe they are of failing sometimes, you know?
Right.
People are afraid of success as well.
Right.
Margo, that's, you know, getting help, I think, was one of the best things you said here, in terms of like reaching out to people to talk to who are specialists who can help you think through the challenges. I know when I first was a CEO back in my 20s, the board insisted that I get a counselor, a psychologist. And it's very common practice for CEOs to have psychologists and counselors, just as a normal practice, to make sure that they're keeping their head straight. And so sometimes I move from coach into counselor with clients. But what happened for me is, I was very with me and what I went through, and I want to see if there's any parallels to this, and I'll be as quick as I can. I at first was very upset and hurt. I was hurt, and for me it was not cool, and I felt like I'd been wronged in some way, and over time I realized, sitting in quiet places and meditating and just processing, that I was overworking. You know, I wasn't paying attention. At the time I was working probably 20-hour days, 18 to 20-hour days every day, right? Just constant work. Lots of projects and clients, and this was a very busy time, and always was, but in particular, that it was just for a long period of time we're busy, and I wasn't paying attention. and then we were working together, and then it created more tension, and wasn't paying attention to her needs, Kristen's needs at all in those days, and so all of a sudden, if I went from being upset and sad to realizing my role within the reality, because it takes two to tango. And
Yeah.
so I started really looking at what I was doing and how I behaved in a way that was unconducive to a relationship, and continue to do that today. But I found that my work ethic at the time, which I've shifted, I don't work quite as hard as that now, 12-hour days. But what it found is that that entrepreneurial curse, if you will, of working and then the relationships goes away. It really led me to the situation where I just wasn't really in a relationship anymore, as I look at it now, and that it was not healthy. And Kristen probably made she made the best decision for herself and for us at the time. At the time, I didn't realize it. Looking at it now, I do. And so I've used it as a lesson and a learning tool to help also with future relationships and my current relationships, so that it's better. And what were some of the takeaways that you gained from that? And then, are you able to apply those as you go forward in your, because I'm still applying in my business and personal life. Just thought I'd be interested in what your lessons were.
Yeah, and I really think after everything, all the dust had settled, we were able to talk, and a lot of it had to do with the change. Unfortunately, when you work that hard, you also reap the benefits of that. Your status goes up. People know you, and if you've got one person who is really successful, and then you have your partner, and I think it's important to, and I thought I was doing everything to bring him along, but that really wasn't my job to do that. He needed to be his own man. And I really think in some way, and I like what you said, that entrepreneurial curse, because you can see, like you, I was working up to 10 o'clock last night, and then preparing for everything for today. And not everybody is made that way. And he would ask, can you turn it off at 6 o'clock? But business doesn't stop then. And, and if I have a client that there was something that was wrong with a project or had questions, you had to answer them. And I think having an understanding partner, and I think that helped him. And in some ways, we talked it out, but it was like too little too late. But it just, I guess I was needing him to step up when I was closing a business and started a new one. Which meant he needed to kind of step up during the time of me restarting. And it was frustrating to him because he didn't have to. I mean, he didn't know.
Yeah, I think what's important about what you're saying, and for our audience out there, and I've talked about this before, and that is, you've really got to make sure you're communicating clearly with your partner,
Right.
your wife, spouse, whoever that is, what you're doing, so that they're on board. Because there's nothing worse than having a significant other, partner, spouse who's against what you're doing or constantly complaining, and it's toxic behavior that really undermines even the strongest person's ability to be successful. And so that alignment is a critical thing you're talking about, and sometimes it can't align. Like, I'm prone, as you know, and you don't know Seema, but you'll meet her one day. Strong women. I like women who are strong and smart, and like smarter than me, and that can be difficult for some men. And you fit in that category. You're just an independent, strong, like, example of what a woman can be. And what recommendation would you have for men when they're engaging with strong women? Because you've probably experienced more than your share of men being intimidated and uncomfortable.
Right.
And when you're just being yourself, what advice would you have for any women watching around how to engage with men who are intimidated by strong women?
I would look at it this way. If he had the understanding that, and comfortable with himself, that the reason I married him is because I wanted to be with him. I mean, I loved him and wanted to be with him. But and I really didn't know how to ask at the time, hey, I'm very busy. I want to be with you. All I'm asking is you're not going to have to worry about me going out on you or, being deceitful or anything. I just need you to give me enough slack to go do what I do. And I do, and I appreciate him saying, hey, can we shut business off so we can have family time? And that was important.
Yeah.
And majority of the time I did say, you know what, you're right. I said, hey, I need to get off the phone. So I kind of backed it off from 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 7 o'clock. And then I was able to do that. But then other opportunities started happening to do international travel and speak. I've done international speaking.
Of course.
And so from Turkey to every province up in North America. And I was getting ready to go on like a 3-week trip. And it didn't happen because I had just ran myself into the ground and ended up having some health issues. And I said, I can't do this. So unfortunately, I didn't get to go. But,
So, but I'm going to go back to my question, because this is not so much about your ex-husband as much as it is about men in general.
Oh,
because I work with a lot of women, right? And I work with a lot of women, and we have vision at Griffin Works of using economic empowerment as a lens to not only empower women but to address gender-based violence. So the more financial freedom you have, the more you can easier you can get out of your situation if it is one that's dangerous. And in some places, it's 68-70% GBV, gender-based violence, and that's towards women mostly.
Yeah.
And so, but my question. So I've seen a lot of these situations with women and helped and brought in different players, but where I've always had a challenge and where I see women having a challenge is that particularly strong women who are engaging in business or engaging with men who are intimidated or uncomfortable by strong women in that business environment. How do you manage that when you have a man who you're trying to engage with in a business environment who, this is for our viewers, who is not, you can tell, maybe other people don't see it the same way, but you can tell that there's tension here because I'm a woman and he's not comfortable with me. How do you manage those situations? Because they must happen for you.
Well, I'm going through something like that right now with a potential client. I think really the man has to be comfortable with who he is and what his knowledge is. When you meet someone, it's just that like the gender roles are, if it's a man to a man, well, they know how to deal with that. It's all that posturing and all that, but it doesn't work well with women. So when you've got a smart woman and I hate to say it, but it's almost like I don't have the time to feed the ego. I just have time. We're here to do a business, but you can't come off because people think, oh well, she's smart, she's successful. That must mean she's really a bitch to work with. Okay, I'm just saying. But and those are some of the things that we have to come up across. If you're a smart, educated, whether you're at the top of the chain of or the scale of, you're like a CEO or you're in top of management, people think you got there by being mean, and that is not the case. I liked what you said earlier in your intro. There's been an age-old storytelling in Indian country is that's why God give you 2 ears and 1 mouth to listen. And I've learned that along the way. And a lot of it is to listen, and it's also how you interact back and forth with that. So the way that each one is different because everybody is different. There are some men that and normally, I hate to say it, but I am usually the only woman in the room of 40 men when we're doing something. So number one, it's how to present yourself, your posturing. They got to be able to feel comfortable that she's strong in her mind, she's strong in her words. And then it's really interesting, like when you do talk, just, add value to it. Margot, what do you think? And then be ready. It's a different kind of a skill set you need to have when you're working in a room full of all men. And well, we saw that when we were on the commission. There was very few women. It was like Melody Blanchett, myself, and later on Cassie. Huh? Pardon me?
Cassie Reese, I think, appointed somewhere at the end, towards the end.
Yeah, at the end. God, there was a couple other. I just, have to think about it. But when you're talking about the things that you absolutely know, that's why that was the first time ever that we had a tribal committee in working with and seeing the value of the tribes. And no one had ever been on that committee who was Native American and had those connections. So it's how you present it, and not, you don't have to be, and I see this with my younger counterparts in business, where they kind of feel like they have that empowerment, but they forget the women who have opened those doors for them. So don't jack it up. We open those doors for you all to come in and, as my dad used to say, conduct yourself accordingly. but it is that you don't need to come in there and demean people, or just because you have status. Do it with kindness. It's so much easier to be, and again, to listen to people, listen to what they're saying in that way, and ask those questions. And I think that goes for men and women, because there's a lot of knowledge that I've been in business 21 years, and there's still not a day that goes by that I don't learn a lesson about. And it's just, number one, just do the right thing all the time, and never cut down another entrepreneur. To me, I see that so much. Well, my company's better than their company, and you don't need, don't run no one down to make yourself look better. Those are just some, basic. They're basic.
Universal. I call
it.
It's universal wisdom, Margot, and
yeah.
And so, I mean, our time is running out again.
I know.
But I'm so grateful you're here. And I think that hopefully we had a number of women out there, particularly around the world, who are listening to you, because I think that you represent an example and an inspiration to women of what's possible, and your resilience in difficulty, whatever that difficulty may be, and layers of difficulty in your last transition are just impressive. And I always have been, and I'm just honored to be your friend, Margot. And
oh, thank you.
Thank you for being on the show. Can't wait to be together again soon. Yeah. So there's the book.
We didn't have time.
any updates? Oh, I forgot about this. Are there any updates you've got?
No, I don't. When I do, I will reach out to you.
Yeah, we're gonna bring you back on.
And now that I know where you're at now, I'm up there at least. Well, prior to COVID-19, I was up there probably around 3, 4, 5 times a year. So now I know.
When you're back there, you just contact me. I'll make time. We'll have you over as a guest.
Well, that would be great.
Margot, thank you so much. Thanks for inspiring. Yeah. Stay strong.
Bye. We'll see you. Bye-bye.
Later. Bye. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I think that the reason I brought Margot back is to have these discussions about relationships, because relationships are critical, particularly our spouse, significant other, partner, are people who influence our lives in some of the most dramatic ways. And we have to get that right. We have to be able to have that communication with them, particularly as entrepreneurs who work nonstop. As you heard from Margot, it's in our blood, right? Once you start it up, you just keep going and work happens. And I think that the lessons within what Margot's talking about, and the lessons about listening, one mouth, having confidence in yourself, are all believing in yourself are all universal pieces of wisdom that tie back to being a really successful entrepreneur, and particularly as a woman. These are important characteristics to help you succeed and grow and thrive in today's world. Okay, who's next, Amy? Droro, how are you doing?
Good, excellent. I wish I could stay and listen more to Margot. She was amazing.
I know I wanted to have Margot, but I knew somebody was sitting here, and it's you. And we got to do some coaching. Margot is somebody who's super impressive, and she's with the Osage Nation, which are in the Tulsa, Oklahoma area. We're relocated there. They were relocated there long ago, and against their will. And she is somebody who is just heavily involved in helping that tribe, and her family has for generations, that tribe and that nation be as strong as they can be. And I think you saw that through just her on the screen. She's such an impressive human.
Yes.
What's going on with you? What do you got happening?
Well, we're trying to move forward through COVID-19, trying to keep up the business, and maybe even coming up with something that is super exciting and new to consumers.
Remind me, what's the product and service, who's the customer, and how do you make money? 30 seconds.
Before that, I'll just remind you of something that you told me in Hi-Fi about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And that was sale. Sell, and sell. Go sell.
That's right. Revenue.
So, exactly, revenues. And we were supposed to launch a new line of products in March.
Okay. Perfect time.
Perfect time. So now I'll go back and explain. So I'm Glo Tamir. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Hargle Food Tech. And we are the first in the world to grow grasshoppers on commercial scale, because grasshoppers are nature's most efficient protein source. They are healthier for humans and more sustainable to grow.
That's awesome. Now, when you say large scale, like how many pounds or tons or kilos are we talking about?
Well, right now we have in the freezers, we have a little bit over 1 ton of grasshopper. That's
a
over
lot of
1 million grasshoppers.
Excellent. I mean,
it's a lot.
And grasshoppers are pretty profitable, and more people. Are you grinding that up into, what are you grinding into flour? Is it just grasshoppers? What are you doing with those grasshoppers?
Well, first, there is one fact that you should know, that is grasshoppers are the most commonly eaten insect in the world, consumed by 2.5 billion people across Asia, Africa, and Central America. In those regions, they are considered a delicacy, enjoy very high demand and prices. The problem is that the supply comes from collection in the wild, which is limited to a 4 weeks season. Our technology enables us to grow them year-round much more efficiently. However, we are focused now on the European and US markets, and consumers in those markets, well, most of them will not eat the whole grasshoppers. If I'll show you something like this, you will not consider it as a
hungry. I'm getting hungry.
Baseball is coming back, I think, in 2 months, and you'll be able to go to Seattle Mariners game. For the last 3 seasons, they've been serving whole roasted grasshoppers, and it is sold out. However, that's still a small niche in the market, and we believe that eventually you can use the grasshopper protein. We dry them, we mill them into a powder, and we add them to a wide range of food products.
So right now, you're growing, harvesting, and then repackaging and selling the grasshoppers.
Exactly.
Now I have a question.
And
I have a question.
We just said that. Okay. We are engaged in joint ventures to develop finished products, energy bars, and many more.
And so my question is this, and I think when I think of Israel, I think of the technology that was distributed around the world to help grow hydroponic plants, right? A lot of that innovation and technology happened in Israel.
Exactly.
I've been in different African countries during that growing season, and where they've got those big sheets and bright lights, and they're attracting the grasshoppers, and they show up where the wind blows one way, and it's it's very inefficient. have you thought about trying to package your method for large-scale growth of grasshoppers and then selling the farming method you have, so that you're not just selling the product of grasshoppers, you're selling the method and the tools and everything associated with growing grasshoppers on a large scale, and not having it tied to the 4-week seasons that happen each year?
Absolutely, we see that as a major part of our future. However, the road to be able to pack the technology and the know-how that we gathered is not simple. Last year, we received the grant from the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Israeli Innovation Authority to develop smallholder grasshopper farms. And so we are working on that technology that will enable every farmer across Asia and Africa to grow their own grasshoppers.
Yeah, I mean, when I was there, I was talking to every single one of those farmers, and I would talk to them and say, look, you don't have to do it this way. You can do this on a large scale. Just use Uncle Google. It's your friend. Find out what they're doing in Israel and start doing it here. You would grow year round. You don't have to be dependent upon this 4-week season, which the wind blows one way, they're there and they're gone. It's really quite phenomenal. I don't know if you've ever seen that collection process, but it's not efficient. Okay.
You are the reason I'm getting so many emails.
Huh?
You are the reason I'm getting so many emails from Africa asking for the technology.
It could be true, because I just continually am like, look, you don't have to do this way.
Yeah,
that's the reason I ask. I really do believe that's a massive market, and I would be focusing in, and I'd be honing in on that, and I'd be trying to grow that as fast as possible, because now you're empowering these people to do it on their own and use your equipment. And I tell you what, they're hungry for it, because they can't get enough grasshoppers. And so
right
now what I'm going to do is switch back. I'm going to switch back. Thank you for that. Keep that in your mind about how can you accelerate the ability to provide the actual farming equipment to grow grasshoppers instead of them collecting. Now I'm going to go back to your products. How are you distributing them right now? Are you doing on the internet, wholesalers? I heard some retailer, but what's your current distribution strategy, and where are you distributing your grasshopper product?
Right now on the internet, online, direct sales through our website. The reason for that is we are still operating on a relatively small scale, so inventory is relatively small. That's one. Second one, we identified niche markets or niche products that can generate very high margins for us, and we found a way to access those consumers directly. So for us, this is working very well right now.
But it's still a fairly small amount of sales relative to what you want.
We'll see in 2 days.
Right. Here's one of my thoughts, and are you doing anything to, like, you're in an industry that a lot, much of the world, like US or other countries, don't understand, right? It's a grasshopper. What the heck are you eating a grasshopper for? But as you said, I think 2.8 billion, that's a good chunk of the 7.8 billion on the planet. That means 5 billion aren't eating. But what I'm getting at is this: when I've traveled and I started experimenting with different foods and trying grasshoppers and crickets and fried tarantulas and whatever I could, red ants. It seems to me that there's a novelty to this that could be exploited on the internet in a cooking show of some kind, or in some way to. Did you ever see those videos for Squatty Potty? Squatty Potty.
No.
No. Okay. You look up these Squatty Potty videos. Literally, it's telling people there's unicorn, and you can poop unicorn poo, and there's a rainbow would come out, and it's fabulous, man. And it sold millions of Squatty Potties. Nobody knew they needed a Squatty Potty. The videos caught people and got their attention and got them hooked because they were just so outrageous and so funny and so uncomfortable, because there was an uncomfortableness because they're talking about people pooing, right? And so they use unicorn poo with a rainbow and an ice cream cone, and they're like, oh, it tastes so good. And you could do something like this with your crickets. in the same sort of way.
Grasshoppers.
I'm saying the inspiration is Squatty Potty, but now you could do something with crickets in a similar way. So go check out the Squatty Potties, look for some inspiration. But what I'm trying to do is help you create a brand around your crickets that and the brand is really around making it more fun and intriguing. Go ahead. Yeah.
Grasshoppers, not crickets.
What?
Grasshoppers, not crickets.
Grasshoppers. I'm sorry. Grasshoppers. Right. But
Let's build the brand.
yeah. Go ahead.
Let's build the brand. Grasshoppers are kosher. Crickets are not.
Right. Okay. That's important. Right. I didn't know that. So let's go back to what I was talking about. Coming up with some kind of video interactive thing that could catch people that is so outrageous and so different. And crickets are uncomfortable. Not crickets. Grasshoppers are uncomfortable for people to some degree to think about eating. And some people love them. And so, I don't know, there's something to this to create some kind of video that allows you to, or series of videos that allow you to kind of make fun of it in a way that's exciting, enticing, and I want to try it. And so, what do you think of this idea?
I completely agree with you. And this is actually when we looked at the potential in the market, we tried to identify consumers that will be interested in the advantages in the added value of the product.
Yeah.
And let me share with you what we did, which is almost similar to what you suggested.
Okay.
The thing about grasshoppers, this is a theological insect. They are mentioned in the Bible as kosher. They are mentioned in the Quran. That was the food of Muhammad, the prophet. And they are mentioned in the New Testament. John the Baptist used to eat grasshoppers with honey.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about it,
I'm seeing the
although
video.
300 plus million Americans are not eating grasshoppers, about 80 million evangelicals do want to eat like John the Baptist. So why not take this amazing creature, which which is a little bit frightening, repackage it as food of John the Baptist, and offer them biblical protein energy bars with grasshopper protein.
You got it, man. You just need to execute on that. Now, what's your URL? Where can people go to buy this product? Let's put it up on the screen here. Where can they go to learn more about your product, your grasshoppers?
The website is biblicalprotein.com. As simple as that.
It's not hargoal.com?
No, it's a different brand. It's a different brand just for this specific issue. It's biblicalprotein.com. The website is up. The store will be up and running tomorrow. So in less than 24 hours, you'll be able to order products. Yeah.
Great.
And let me tell you something that is really surprising. After when we started showing these energy bars to everyone, people got so excited because of the amazing taste. They asked for the whole grasshoppers. So we added a new product, the whole grasshoppers back with the same package of John the Baptist.
Brilliant. You know, I don't think people realize how good the grasshoppers can taste, because they do. They taste good. You got to learn not to eat the wings, and you got to learn to eat them differently. But I think that, and I've tried products made from the powder, like a flour, and as long as you get over your head that it's a grasshopper, it's a food product that tastes good and is healthy for you. And so, again, it's going back to Squatty Potty, man. Go check out these videos and watch them, because you've got a gold mine, and you just need to figure out how to take that inspiration from Squatty Potty and apply it to your grasshoppers. And guess what? You'll have people sharing and posting and buying your grasshopper products and healthier as well. So, healthier.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. And in a couple of months, you'll be able to even enjoy gummy hoppers. We have gummies with grasshopper protein.
Are you going to put a little bit of THC in those gummy?
We're thinking about it. Actually, what we're trying to do is
a couple of those.
We're trying to see if the grasshoppers will eat the cannabis leaves, which you don't use.
Oh my goodness. I see a great future. Come up with that hook. Come up with that video or that way of getting people to think different in a fun and exciting way. uncomfortable way a little bit, but it draws them in, so they want to be part of it. They want to buy it because grasshoppers, more and more people are going to buy grasshoppers. More and more businesses are also going into the business you're in right now. So I'm seeing there's more demand for grasshoppers, and there's more people trying to figure out how to create more products from grasshoppers. So you want to run and you want to brand that product. And I think you've got a great strategy. We'll check in with you again and see how progress goes.
Thank you. Excellent.
Thank you. We look forward to seeing. Let us know when you got a video, and we'll share it.
Oh, it will be on YouTube in 30 minutes. It is uploading right now.
Okay.
It's a 2-minute clip about John the Baptist. Just look for biblical protein on YouTube. You'll see it.
Okay, great. This is so exciting. Thank you. Good luck, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, you can create any business you want to create out of anything where there's demand. And who knew, at least in the US, there's demand for grasshoppers with 2.8 billion people eating grasshoppers, and you only can collect grasshoppers 4 weeks out of the year. And so when your ability to actually produce and grow those grasshoppers and not have a time to a 4-week period, you're innovating, you're creating new ways to provide the products that people want from you as the business. So, okay. I don't know, Amy, is that one last thing I think before we go here? Remember, free coaching, you want to sign up at the URL. It's going to scroll underneath the screen here shortly. Giving away 1 hour each day over the remaining 11 days in May of my coaching, specific one-on-one to you. Sign up today. We'll be pulling out names on a first come, first served basis. 2 tomorrow, and then 1 every day after that. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Same Patitude time, same Patitude place. Make it a great day.
You got to never ever give up. Never ever give up. Never ever give up. Never ever give up.
Believe in yourself and you'll go far.